Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. For today's video, I thought I would talk about permits that have to do with construction at Giga-Texas. There are various different sources. The particular one I'm using here is the Travis County Fire Marshal Office permits, and that link is down at the bottom of the screen. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of permits, and they are constantly being filed and changed and updated, so it's hard to keep track of them. As of the current total, there's about 670 active permits, and there's almost 2,000 on the books right now. So with that being said, I want to talk about a few areas of interest. The first is up at the electrical switchyard, and this is the permit here, 2024-2009. This is the switchyard expansion and the BESS, the battery electric storage system, or Megapack site. See that highlighted here in yellow, and the work that is underway right now to prepare the grade for that new Megapack. In addition to that, the switchyard itself is getting a major expansion that includes a new third transformer, a control room with a underground vault, and more of the steel superstructure that allows the connections to the grid. And here's a closer in view of some of those items that I mentioned. You can see the work that is underway, and this is an image as of just a couple of days ago. Now, all of this is to support the new Cortex supercomputer cluster down at the south of the factory. And here's another view of one of those vertical steel structures that are being added as part of this overall expansion of the electrical system and capabilities for Giga-Texas. Now, there are a few things I want to point out. First, the existing Megapack on the left-hand side of the screen is directly connected to the grid, and it provides two primary purposes. One is for backup power to Giga-Texas, and the other is to help stabilize the greater Austin grid. Because of that, there's energy flow that can come to and from the grid as shown in the depiction. Now, this differs to what we're seeing with the new Megapack site, and this is basically connected just from the switchyard to and from the Megapack site, and then the conduit goes down to the factory and goes directly to the Cortex. So this is probably just a dedicated system that helps with the power modulation and frequency changes associated with the supercomputer cluster. Now, with these images, I just want to show you some of the recently completed permits that have to do with the electrical switchyard. Of course, they completed the switchyard, the e-house, or the control room that you can see in the center left of the screen. And they also did the Megapack site. They completed all the fire alarm detection system and the flame detection system for that original Megapack site. And all of this work was done basically the summer of this year. So it hasn't been all that long. And here's another shot of the Megapack site with some more of the permits that have been recently completed with this installation. And in addition to that, they have the control room that also had a fire detection system put into it. And that control room is that gray box that you see in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So the work on the electrical switchyard is not all that old as far as being completed. And now they're doing a major expansion to accommodate the Cortex supercomputer cluster. And moving over to the east side of casting, we've been watching this large structure being erected and assembled over the last several months. It's actually called the Melt Center Canopy, and this overlies the area where there's receiving doors and other mechanical items that are being installed to service the furnaces that are just inside the wall into the section here, and that is to melt down some of the scrap aluminum. I also saw this permit, 2024-1038, which is very interesting. It's brand new, just going into effect, and this is for the Cyber DCM, which stands for Die Cast Machine, otherwise known as Gigapress 3 foundation. Now, I've done some recent videos about the interior here. The most recent one I did was back in July, and we know that there's two 9,000-ton gigapresses in there and six 6,000 tons. But with this information here from Luca Greco, just very recently on X, looks like there's a third 9,000-ton gigapress that may be coming to Giga-Texas. This is not confirmed, but it is in the color scheme of what Tesla normally uses, and the way that it was kind of published from IDRA suggests that maybe it is coming here. Now, what's interesting is that inside the cash machine area, it's very cramped, and I haven't seen much of that work for the foundation yet, but it'll be something I definitely keep an eye on as time goes on. Moving over to the west side at the Boring Company tunnel, the Cyber Tunnel, this permit talks about the fire alarm detection system for that tunnel, and the most important thing is it refers to it as portal number 1, and this image shows you what it looks like. Currently, it's almost ready for operation, but the reason that it says portal number 1 and why that's important is that there is going to be a second tunnel, and the approximate location is indicated up on the upper left of this image, and this will help with the Model Y production from what I'm being told. Now, the TBM, or Tunnel Boring Machine Proofrock 4, is supposed to be used for this tunnel, and we will see some of this work beginning in 2025. So that's a quick review of a bunch of permits and the status of many of them for 2024. Of course, all of this is building for a very exciting 2025, and I can't wait to see all of the construction and the production that's going to happen here next year. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga, Texas. Well, this morning I wasn't sure exactly if I was going to be able to fly or not. There was a chance of heavy fog, obviously low clouds and rain, and a front coming through. Fortunately, everything worked out, so I was able to get you these great images. And we'll start here on the southwest corner across the highway from the main factory, specifically where this new road has been recently paved. And as you can tell, the line markings are in the process of being done right now as we watch. In addition to that, nearby, this staging yard has got these circular forms and this mark on the ground in a circle as well. It appears that there's going to be some sort of maybe a above the ground tank or some other structure that's cylindrical being built here. And that's why they need the 2 cranes, the office building, and some of the other equipment that's coming in. But as we continue to fly to the north along this new road, great view of how this is all coming together right in front of the tunnel. And I will give us a lower altitude view and zoom in. We'll get a good chance to see what it looks like inside. The lighting is apparently all completed now, the full length of the tunnel. See the asphalt, the line markings, and the white stain on the inside of the tunnel. And recently the Boring Company did put that image out of a Cybertruck inside the tunnel, so we know that they are doing some testing. The Faraday cage, kind of small structure for the electrical system, it looks like it's pretty much done. There is lighting inside, so it has power. And of course, the crews are working on the covering structure, which is kind of inspired by the Cybertruck. And there's a large section of stainless steel getting ready to be attached to the support beams. And I think that they've done all of the test fitting, and now they're getting ready for the permanent installation. So a great view around this tunnel, the paving, and all of the preparation work to get it operational soon. Probably next week. Their goal is by Christmas. Now the outbound lot is reasonably busy today. A lot of mix of Model Ys and the Cybertrucks, plus plenty of trucks picking them up for deliveries. But of course, the big news is on the south end of the end-of-line facility, where we see the canopies with the canvas tops starting to take shape. In fact, 6 of them have been added. 1 more is waiting for the canvas to be put on top, and the other one is waiting for the superstructure. But this is a great view of what this looks like. And of course, there's gray material on the top. And sadly, I know a lot of viewers were hoping for solar panels, not on these canopies, perhaps sometime in the future on the end-of-line facility itself. But anyway, this is a quick view of the west side of the highway, the new asphalt markings and that tunnel, and the work that's going on to the south near the South Bridge. So I'm going to reposition the drone and get ready to cross over the highway, and we'll resume on the other side. We'll take a look here at the gravel section at the bottom of the screen with that roadway that goes under the South Bridge over to where those two cranes are and those forms for that cylindrical item that's going to be built. As we fly over the Cyber Pond, a nice view of the south end where the paving is underway to put that road right next to the glass and on top of the 3 emergency exit tunnels. As I maneuver the drone here on the southwest side, we can tell that a lot of the glass that was in the crates and on those trailers has already been moved over to the southeast side, and it is in fact being installed. We'll see that later in the video. Also, they have that yellow kind of counterbalanced frame on the right that's used for the glass, and there's another one that's in operation today on the other side of the factory. But you can see just how much glass is remaining. Now, in the area where we've been seeing all the excavation and grading work here has been asphalted now. We can see a lane that's been kind of marked off with these temporary railing system. And of course, inside how well lit it is and those rails that kind of define that drive path. And this is in the inside here is where the other end of the tunnel is located as well. So they still have some work to be done on the ground here next to that temporary exit for the Cybertrucks. But pretty soon that will no longer be needed as they will be using the boring tunnel to go across underneath the highway to the other side. So as we fly up along the west side to the north, a couple of things just noticeable here is those crates that are still being delivered, unpacked, and then broken down into those containers. And in addition to that, I am attempting to show you the work that's going on here on the inside on the 3rd floor. You can tell that there is kind of a temporary wall with plastic right where there is a new mezzanine. And you can see on the top here, the top floor of the mezzanine. So they've actually added another floor to the top here. And all throughout this area is getting the installation of equipment that we've been seeing stockpiled over on the far west side. And of course, much of the steel that is in here is also being stored on the northwest side, and I'll show you that later on in the video. The production of Model Ys is just getting started. I am here early today because I was trying to beat the weather that was forecast to come through the area. As we cross over the highway to the end-of-line facility, this is a great overall view of what this looks like and the outbound lot. Of course, on the north side, there is some work that's being done to kind of define a landscape section right in front of the glass windows where the cafeteria is located. Looks like they are spreading some dark gray gravel in this kind of pattern, and they've also seeded in some of that area with grass mix. So it looks like this is getting close to being completed, and it will give a much better view or look to the north side of the end-of-line facility once it is completed. So I'm going to turn around and head up further to the north over this material staging yard with the 2 large tents and give you a view of what this area looks like. The dirt kind of path that goes off to the north is where that new natural gas pipeline was installed as part of that lateral extension for the Sandhill Energy Plant on the south side of the Colorado River. Cybertruck doing some testing there on the road. And as we come over on this part of the material staging, a few other things I want to just check on. One is all of the Evapco fan units and bases that are still here. Also, some of the equipment in crates and some pipes waiting for their time to be installed, and some additional kind of junction items on the left-hand side of the screen on the ground. And of course, looking back to the factory gives you a great idea of where we are at the moment. And all of this steel in the ground is what I was mentioning is being used to add those mezzanine levels inside the factory to add additional capacity for production of additional vehicles, including the Cybercab later this coming year. There's also the lower cost vehicles that will be using kind of revised production lines for the Model Y. And then also later on in the year, the Optimus robot will be built here as well. So that's what's going on inside. Now, I mentioned that natural gas pipeline. This is the terminal that is still under construction on this part of the site. This is what it looks like here today. You can see some additional work with underground pipe on the right-hand side of the screen and some of the other junctions within this fenced-off section. Again, this is not really part of Giga-Texas as far as their products or their construction, but it is related since it's sharing the same kind of land and ground area around this part of the site. So I'm going to bring the drone back up. We'll reposition and cross over the highway, and I'll resume the narration on the other side. This area where we've been watching all of the formwork take place, it looks like concrete has now been poured, at least in the section on the left, and the right is underway, or at least very close to getting the concrete. As I bring the drone down a little lower, this is what this whole area looks like. Again, some people think that this is for accessibility ramps. It looks fairly substantial and very different than any of the other ones at the factory, so I'm not really sure. But I'll continue to watch this, and we'll see as they finish it out what it looks like. But it's definitely taking shape, and with the concrete being poured, that work should go really quickly. So I'm going to come up over the roof section, fly over towards where we will see the baghouse filtration plant. Of course, the ducted fans and the ductwork with filters on the left-hand side of the screen. The new access point here with the 3 workers getting finished up, and this is so that people and equipment can easily come up to the roof section. All of the cable along the parapet wall up to the north where the crane is what they are installing to provide power to the Cortex supercomputer cluster on the south end of the factory. And of course, here is a good look at that baghouse filtration plant and how its assembly is continuing right now. There is scaffolding on much of the site as they continue to assemble additional equipment on to this structure, and it's on all of the floors from the ground all the way up to that top. I'm going to come back over to the roof here, show you a closer view of all of the cables, the cable trays on the right, and what it looks like here as that crane continues to hoist up more of those spools onto that orange kind of spool holder and allows the crews to pull that cable out. So that work is continuing. Here on the north, casting sorting a lot. Looks like about half of it is empty. Good sign of the amount that is being used for production. They continue to produce, store them here, and then when needed, put them in for the production at the Cybertrucks. As I continue to come in here on the east side, we see more of the castings, some of them on the ground, some of them I think are for scrap, and that brings us into the purpose of this structure. Now, we talked about it in the intro with some of the permits, but this melting plant or melt structure is definitely taking shape. We can see the kind of the aluminum screed machines at the bottom center of the screen getting positioned at some point for use. We see some of the equipment on the left of the fenced off section, some more being assembled on the ground, and then of course that feed system for the furnace is really taking shape. I'm going to bring the drone down even lower and give you a much closer view of what is going on here. Here's a zoom in. This shows this movable structure, and inside on the upper right you can actually see some of the furnaces that are installed inside, and then through this door we see another Gigapress, and that is one of the 6,000-ton Gigapresses within this part of the facility. As I mentioned, more of the assembly of equipment onto the baghouse filtration plant with some more deliveries on the ground, and this is what this looks like today as the workers continue to install more of that equipment on this upper structure. So I'm going to reposition the drone back up to the north, and we'll take a look at some of the developments that are going on at the electrical switchyard today. start here today at the Megapack site. This is the one that we talked about in the intro that pretty much was completed and all the permits finished up earlier this year. And it is operational with two main functions. One is to provide backup power for Giga-Texas, and it is not connected to the solar panels. It is just connected to the grid. And the second purpose is to help stabilize the grid in the greater Austin area. That's why it is connected as the way we discussed in the intro. Now we see the electrical switchyard with some of these large power poles to the north and the wires that are providing the power that is making Giga-Texas operational. We can tell by this view here the three bays, one on the right, the center, and the one on the left. And of course, the one on the left is what is getting added onto now to support the additional energy needs here at Giga-Texas, specifically for the Cortex supercomputer cluster that's installed in the south end. As we fly closer into the switchyard, we can see that that second large A-frame, which is much more substantial than the nearby A-frames, has been completely erected. More of the steel has been placed around that site, which means that they're getting pretty close to when the high tension wires can start to be run through this part of the switchyard and add that third full bay onto the site. Now this A-frame is also more substantial than the nearby ones, and this was added recently. We see more of the steel being added around the base and then to the south of the third transformer, more of those footings. Now the third transformer itself has had a lot more of the items installed, including that oil tank, which is part of the cooling system. See more of the wires and the open cabinets. The big news is the third control room has now been installed on top of the vault. We've been watching this getting ready to happen over the last several videos. And here you can see where the workers are walking around that new trailer. And then underneath that is the conduits that run through under the ground where those concrete vaults are and head right into this cleared section for the Megapack. Again, we talked about this in the intro. This is a little different as far as the connections are made because this is not directly tied up to the grid. It just comes from the switchyard to the Megapacks, and then underneath the ground is more conduit that heads off to the factory and into those cables that we saw on top of the casting machine structure that then run along the parapet wall to the south to the Cortex. So this is very interesting, and it's getting very close to the point where we're going to start seeing more of the installation of equipment on this prepared surface. We also see the work on the underground stormwater management system progressing quite quickly. They're putting the gravel on top of the pipes to keep them from floating up when there is a lot of water through the ground table. And this work is progressing to the point where it looks like it's nearly completed. Once that is done, we can start seeing the assembly of the equipment and probably a grounding grid on that site. So I'm going to pull away to the east, and we're going to prepare to take a look at some of the activity around the battery cathode plant. Before I get there, I just wanted to take a look at this continuing earthwork near that pond and also some of the pipes on the ground. And it looks like they are slowly clearing up a lot of this mounded dirt that has been here for a while. Now, in the center of the screen is that Tesla Road extension area. There is a small amount of work, but it really is not progressing as fast as I would have thought. Now, we did talk recently about the lithium plant and how it is progressing down to Corpus Christi. The output of that will come here to the cathode plant. So they probably need to get the road finished here once they start taking deliveries out of that plant sometime in the first half of 2025. As I maneuver here on the farther east side, just wanted to show you the refueling station with these kind of red tanks. This is to support a lot of the equipment here on the site, including the yard trucks, which are a part of the warehouse on wheels that brings those trailers over to production as the time is needed so they can continue with the production of the vehicles. Stopping here, just taking a look at this equipment on the ground. I've been watching this for a while to see when this was going to be moved inside and where. And other than unpacking it, it really has not changed in several months. So continue to watch that equipment. Here's a nice view to the north along the east side of the cathode plant. Of course, the crash test facility, which is busy doing a lot of crash testing of various models, all of which are either current production or perhaps they're doing some future production inside. It's hard to really tell. But more of the work up here on the north, showing all of the vehicles next to the cathode plant. Of course, the cell test lab here as we are flying over, and all of the materials to this far northeast, with more of the steel corrugated pipe for the underground water management system being stored here, and some additional items amongst all of the concrete that has been broken up from the original south end large concrete apron that was removed for the south end extension. As I continue to maneuver here on the west side of the battery cathode plant, a couple of things I'm looking at is all the materials at the bottom of the screen and the right-hand side of the screen. This is slowly being installed into the cathode building as part of the cathode manufacturing process. And of course, a big change here next to this new asphalt section is the bottom part of the chiller plant has been wrapped completely in plastic. This is very similar to what we saw with the Cortex cooling plant on the southeast side of the main factory. So it's interesting that this is being done right now. It's possible that this is related to expected cooler weather coming in. Now, this is a nice view of the north end of the die shop with some of the materials, but I did want to come back here and show you the kind of the vapors that are flowing around the base of the tanks and the vaporizers, also all of the condensation. There is a truck nearby. It looks like it's being serviced right now, but this is one of the highest amount of activity here I have seen with this particular site in quite some time, and I thought that you would like to see what this looks like here today. At least 3 of those vaporizers have some degree of frost on them, which is a great sign for what is going on the inside of this facility. So I'm going to bring the drone up higher to a higher altitude, and we'll fly along this middle section over the east warehouse on wheels and over towards the multi-level parking garage. Looks like more of the grass seed is being sprayed on this open kind of field here on the east side of the multi-level parking garage. Of course, the privacy fence is still in place along the ground floor of that parking garage, and there's continuing testing going on the inside of that structure. Here's a nice view across this part of the site and that temporary pond, or at least the original pond, and then the temporary line pond on the left, and then of course the workshops and equipment for the glass company next to the south end of the River Road extension. As I maneuver back to look towards the factory, I wanted to take a quick glance at this clearing, and not really any changes since it was prepared. Looks like it's being used for water trucks right now. And as I get closer to the south end extension, the checking on the work with the staining of the walls, the NOGCOG crews are busy again today. They've extended the amount of stain about 4 of the sections of the concrete, and they're rapidly getting close to where it tapers up to that triangular corner. This is a good view of that chiller plant with the plastic on the ground, similar to what we saw up at the cathode plant. And as I mentioned, the crews are very busy with adding more of the glass panels into this southeast side. And we can see that yellow lifting jig with the suction cups getting ready to pick up another large piece of glass and maneuver it for installation. And it looks like there's about 6 panes have been installed on the ground floor, that parapet wall structure already. And they will continue to work on this to close in this entire side of the factory. So that will bring us to an end of the review of Giga-Texas today. I hope that you enjoyed all of what we were able to talk about in the intro with the permits and kind of give us a view of what's coming up in 2025, plus everything that we saw at the site today. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your support, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.